Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies as we continue with part 3. Leo Taxil's remarkable books about murder, the devil, women, and the Black Mass in the High Degrees of Masonry. From the Story of Freemasonry by W.G. Sibley. Leo Taxil's remarkable books about murder, the devil, women, and the Black Mass in the High Degrees of Masonry. The most absurd of all the entanglements into which the Roman Catholic Church has been drawn by its detestation for the society. A tale of ludicrous credulity and blind fanaticism unparalleled in the closing decade of the last century has been related with much peculiarity by several writers. Gabriel Jogan Pages was born at Marseilles, France in 1854. Fortunate in educational advantages during youth, on arriving at manhood, he adopted journalism as his avocation. Talented, audacious, and holding both religion and decency in contempt, his writings attracted so much attention that he sought a larger field in Paris, where he published an infidel daily paper and wrote many irreligious books that obtained a wide circulation. One of them was a scandalous work entitled The Secret Amours of Pius IX, for the publication of which he was heavily fined. In 1885, this reckless young man saw Leo XIII's Humanus Genus, a field for both revenue and the humiliation of the Roman Catholic Church, which he most heartily despised. He pretended conversion, suppressed his skeptical books, and was absolved by the Papal Nuncio in Paris, Monsignor di Rendi, from a number of excommunications recorded against him. With ardor, born of desire for money and ambition to dupe the church, which had received him into its folds, he produced, under the pseudonym of Leo Taxil, a series of books called Complete Revelations of French Masonry, which attracted great attention in Europe, were translated into German, Italian, and Spanish, and were read by hundreds of thousands of people. In 1881, he had been made an entered apprentice, but soon after expelled from the fraternity because of indiscretions of which he was guilty. With reckless disregard for facts and unrestrained by his ignorance of masonry, he gave his extraordinary imaginative powers full play, and with a fecundity of detail and illustration truly remarkable, represented the rites of the craft to be a hideous form of devil worship. One entire volume he devoted to female masons, on which impossible foundation he constructed a shameful edifice of fiction, full of shockingly scandalous and beastly fabrications that were received with delight by the papal authorities, who saw in them perfect justification for the attitude of their church towards masonry. Another one of his books, of which 200,000 copies were sold at 24 francs a copy, charged every Mason with being a murderer in spirit if not in fact. The following translation of a passage from it explains the grounds upon which the charge was made. Before a man is admitted to the higher degrees, he is blindfolded and taken into a room where a live sheep is lying on the floor. The animal's mouth and feet are secured and it is shaven clean, so that the skin feels to the touch like that of a human being. Next to the animal a man is placed, who breathes heavily, feigning to struggle against imaginary enemies. The candidate is given to understand that the sheep's body is that of a disloyal mason who gave away the secrets of the order and must die, according to some ancient law, the candidate being made executioner as a warning to him. Then he is given a big knife, and after some ceremonial is persuaded to kill the traitor, that is, plunge the knife repeatedly into the body of the sheep, which he imagines to be that of an unknown human being, his brother. Thus every Mason is a murderer in spirit at least, if not actually, for sometimes treacherous Masons take the place of the animal. This story drew forth denials from such distinguished Freemasons as Bismarck, the Prince of Wales, and Emperor William I, which served greatly to stimulate the sale of the work. Invigorated by the credulity of his victims, Taxil added spiritualism to his schedule of Masonic practices and beliefs and told of tables floating in the air and turning into crocodiles at the Masonic meetings, and for his supposed revelations was honored by Pope Leo XIII with the Order of the Holy Sepulchre, a distinguished mark of high favor of the Roman hierarchy. High-grade Masonry was the most fertile field of Taxil's grotesque falsifications. He made Charleston, South Carolina the scene of his Luciferian Masonry because it was the home of Albert Pike, whose labors as Grand Commander of the Southern Supreme Council for the perfection of the rituals and ceremonials of the Scottish Rite have been excelled by no man. Taxil declared that in the solemn recesses of the consistory at Charleston, His Satanic Majesty exhibited himself without disguise, hoof, horns, tail, and all, in the exemplification of the high grades, a high priest of this Luciferian Masonry, and adroitly contrived for the consternation of the Pope and the public, in the person of Diana Vaughan. She was said to be the direct descendant of a man to whose embraces the lascivious Venus Astarte submitted, and whose life had been extended 33 years for the promulgation of demoniacal designs. As a girl, she betrothed herself to the demon Asmodeus, afterwards appeared before Satan in Charleston, and was by him consecrated as his Masonic high priestess. In the presence of Albert Pike, she possessed supernatural powers, such as the ability to turn herself into liquid and pass through a stone wall, and was a very terrible personage indeed. All these and scores of other absurdities were published month after month in Paris, and read with avidity in the Vatican. When the Roman ecclesiastical authorities had been sufficiently horrified by Diana Vaughan's deviltry, Taxil caused her to be converted, as he himself had been. This astonishing change in a heart familiar with wickedness was alleged to have been caused by Albert Pike ordering her to spit upon and stab a consecrated host in one of the Masonic rites, and 2 utter repulsive blasphemies, deeds which stir up deep resentment in the Pope's breast. Diana refused to comply, repented, and wrote a book which was sent to Leo XIII in 1895, by whose secretary Monsignor Vincenzo Sardi wrote a letter thanking her and urging her to continue in her good work against Freemasonry. One extract in which Diana describes a Masonic Black Mass, one of scores of tales equally preposterous, may be made from this volume. In a thick cloud of perfume, the priest ascends the altar of Satan's synagogue. On the table is seen a goat with a human face already excited by some preliminary homages. Intoxicated by perfumes and adoration, the priest opens a box and takes out some wafers. The rites performed and the words spoken during the continuance of the magical ceremony are blasphemous in character, and the sacred vessel and its contents are subjected to insult and mockery. The goat plays the infernal part, cursing and reviling, and lastly the following incantation is delivered. Master of Esclairs, dispenser of the benefits of crime, intendant of sumptuous sins and great vice, sovereign of contempt, preserver of old hatreds, and inspirer of vengeance and misdeeds. At this ceremony, the children of the choir are clad in red and wear scarlet caps surmounted by 2 horns. They hold black candles in their hands. Largely as a result of Leo Taxil's voluminous works, one of which has 2,000 pages, the Vatican and its priesthood throughout Europe were aroused to a sense of impending dangers from the fraternity, and an anti-Masonic Congress was called to meet at Trent in September 1896, to which Leo XIII telegraphed his blessing. Its purpose was to make known to everybody the immense moral and material evil done by Freemasonry to the Church and to society, and to seek a remedy by way of a permanent international organization against the craft. 1,000 delegates from European countries attended, among them being 36 Roman Catholic bishops, who found a safe retreat in a marble cathedral of the Austrian city, where Masonic lodges are unknown owing to governmental prohibition, as is also the case in Russia and Poland. Gabriel Jogan Pages, better known as Leo Taxil, was the hero of the occasion, but his presence did not completely satisfy the Congress. Diana Vaughan, who, for reasons obvious to Taxil alone, could not appear, was greatly desired, as a suspicion that she was a myth had developed in the public press. The Congress, not entirely convinced by the plausible excuses of Taxil, entrusted an investigation of her genuineness to a commission of its members, which of course was unable to secure proof of her existence. The pressure on Monsieur Jogan Pages finally became so strong that he announced she would appear in the Hall of the Geographical Society in Paris on Easter Monday, April 19, 1897. On that date and at that place, the precise scamp who had so long reveled in the admiration and confidence of the princes and priests of Catholicism took the platform in the presence of a large audience that had assembled to see and hear Diana Vaughan, formerly the intimate associate of the devil, now the repentant accuser of Masonry. He made a speech of superb audacity in which he told his shocked hearers that his conversion 12 years before was a pretense, that Diana Vaughan was a myth, and that his revelations of Freemasonry were all deliberate lies, put forth for the sole purpose of playing upon the credulity of the Roman Catholic Church and making its rulers ridiculous in the eyes of intelligent men. He added that the Bishop of Charleston had long ago assured the Pope of the falsity of his stories about Albert Pike, and that the Apostolic Vicar of Gibraltar had informed Leo XIII that the alleged caves at the place in which he had represented the Masons as engaged in foul and atrocious rites did not exist. In his chagrin, the Pope had since kept silence. This awakened the stunned audience, whose curses, howls, and threats compelled Monsieur Jogan Pages to seek security in another quarter under the protection of the police, where no doubt the results of his daring exploits afforded him profound satisfaction. That the abortive chase of 12 years under Taxil's guidance, after proofs of the iniquity of Freemasonry filled the church authorities with the deepest disgust, is pleasantly indicated by a remark attributed to the Canon Mastel, in which he is represented as declaring that when hell should swallow Gabriel Jogan Pages as its filthy prey, the damned therein would bow their heads under new degradation. Later, Taxil, in an interview, says, "The public made me what I am, the arch-liar of the period. For when I first committed to writing against the Masons, my object was amusement, pure and simple. The crimes laid at the door were so grotesque, so impossible, so widely exaggerated, I thought everybody would see the joke and give me credit for originating a new line of humor. But my readers wouldn't have it so. They accepted my fables as gospel truth, and the more I lied for the purpose of showing that I lied, the more convinced became they that I was a paragon of veracity." Shortly before this disturbing episode, movement originated among American Catholics, who were better informed than Roman of the character, purpose, and works of Freemasonry, and who found the ban of centuries against the fraternity a stumbling block to have it removed, at least in America. This agitation gained sufficient force to reach the Vatican, but was ineffective, the Church's history in relation to Freemasonry being wholly inimical to the establishment of harmony between the two organizations. Although a disappointment to many in the Roman Church, perhaps 'tis better thus. For never can true reconciliation grow when words of deadly hate have pierced so deep. The decision of the Holy See was announced in January 1895 by the Roman Catholic Archbishop of Cincinnati and included 3 societies besides Freemasonry in its condemnation. It instructed the ordinaries of all the dioceses of the United States to keep the faithful away from all and each of the three societies called the Odd Fellows, Knights of Pythias, and Sons of Temperance. The first reason given was that these societies seemed to have a decided influence to lead Catholics towards Freemasonry, and Freemasonry is under the absolute condemnation and excommunication of the Church. The Archbishop then called the attention of Catholics to the declared and implacable hatred of Masons against the Church and all religious interests, a hatred he assured to be openly and angrily avowed by the leading Masons of Europe and manifested by their satanic warfare against everything Christian. He admitted that this spirit did not seem to prevail in America, but because of the presence of zealous Masons in the other societies mentioned, if a Catholic is drawn into one of them, he is in a continual and familiar association with the admirers of Masonry, and so exposed to imbibe their sentiments and accept their principles. Although the Freemasons and some other secret fraternities are not tolerated by Catholicism, an attempt to restrain Catholics from joining the Knights of Labor, a secret organization founded by a Freemason, aroused such opposition among Catholics that it was abandoned, although it has passwords, grips, obligations, and other features that are condemned as a part of Freemasonry. The Grand Army of the Republic, also organized by Freemasons and members of other secret bodies and largely composed of them, is not under the displeasure of the Vatican, although many zealous Freemasons hold membership in it, whence it appears that diplomacy has a place in the diplomatic councils of Rome. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.